Eric Clanton interview, Rolling Stone lies about Antifa. Surprise, surprise. By the way, folks,
Just an anti-theist is just in trouble now. The truth troll, wow, just in trouble. Just an anti-theist is just in trouble now. The truth troll, wow, just in trouble. Just an anti-theist is just in trouble now.
so there you go. Make sure you subscribe to us on our backup stuff and follow us on social media, etc. because this channel could go bye-bye at any moment because I'm just in trouble now. May 15, 2018, Rolling Stone puts out this article, Antifa on Trial, How a College Professor Joined the Left's Radical Ranks. Eric Clanton took to the streets with anti-fascists during a season of violence in Berkeley and may spend the next decade in prison. Well, if he's guilty, I really hope he actually spends the rest of his life. And, you know, in my opinion, this person, because he committed multiple counts of attempted murder, I think he should be locked away in solitary confinement until he dies, which, you know, wouldn't be very long because, you know, people in solitary confinement, they are so miserable, they just die out of misery just from being alone. And that's what this person deserves. This person deserves to be removed from any possibility of hurting another human being. Because, you know what? You forfeit your own rights when you try to violate... If you try to violate someone else's right to live by trying to kill them, you don't have any more rights. You've just thwarted your rights. We have to remove you from the possibility. We have to neutralize you. We have to prevent you from being able to hurt other people. So the article is by Feuer, and by the way, I haven't read this. I just woke up and I just found out about this. The article says, shortly after Donald Trump took... Okay, so in the first sentence, we have to put Donald Trump in there. So immediately they're trying to get the reader to go from a rational state of mind to an emotional one. You know, oh, Donald Trump, that's it, I'm mad. I'm mad at everyone that is on his side. Or not totally 100% against him. Shortly after Donald Trump took office, the college town of Berkeley, California found itself at war. 3 violent protests broke out in the city within 3 months of Trump's inauguration. In early February, a riot erupted in its famously liberal university as masked anti-fascists. Okay, first of all, they're not actually anti-fascists. They say they are. Okay? Yeah, North Korea calls itself a People's Republic. So what? Some human beings call themselves cats or dragons or whatever. From the movement known as Antifa, attack the Student Union Center and stop the alt-right agitator Milo Yiannopoulos from delivering his speech. Okay, here in the third sentence, they've already lied. And by I'm going to say it's a lie. I totally disagree with Tim Pool, who says, well, you know, Hanlon's razor, don't attribute to malice that which could be attributed to ignorance, and etc., etc. Now, when a journalist doesn't take the 30 seconds or so to look something up, and he just calls somebody alt-right, okay? It's not like he's saying he has blonde hair when he doesn't have blonde hair. It's something that actually makes a huge difference, okay? It's consequential. If you're a quote-unquote journalist and you're saying somebody's alt-right and you don't know whether or not they're alt-right and you're just believing other quote-unquote journalists, first of all, you know they're lying because you do it all the time, okay, for a living. So you know they're lying. So if you're just going to believe some other quote-unquote journalists, then you know you are propagating what is probably, or very likely, to be lies. So that is not ignorance. That is intentional, okay? The chances that this Feuer just now heard of alt-right or heard of Milo Yiannopoulos and he really just thinks that, oh yeah, well, everybody's telling the truth in the media, and if they say he's alt-right, he's alt-right. The chances of him actually believing that are virtually non-existent, okay? I would bet my right arm that he did this on purpose. Okay? It's intentional. It's not ignorance, it's intentional. These people are lying. And by the way, since I can already see that this article, you know, that this author is, or this quote-unquote journalist is lying, yet again, I'm going to send this video to this person to piss them off. I love doing that. Their responses are incredible. When you send a journalist a piece on them pointing out where they lie, they freaking love that. Oh, they love that so much. And they don't even threaten to sue you. The professional lawyer continues. 4 weeks later, a second group of anti-fascists descend on a local public park, coming to blows with a raucous gathering of the president's supporters. Okay, right there, that's actually not true, too. Some of those people were, in fact, Trump supporters. Some of them were just free speech advocates who were not even right-wing. Now, those two different events, one was going to actually be a pro-Trump event, the other one was going to be a free speech event. One organized by, I forget her name. Oh, I forget her name, but and the other one organized by Richard Black. The two of them got together with each other, and they decided to merge their two things because they both wanted to do it in the park that day. So not all of them were Trump supporters, and the people who were Trump supporters, a lot of them were just like elderly or adolescent, you know, mom and pop with their grand freaking kid or their like 14-year-old grandson. There was a couple of immigrants there, etc. This was a family event in the park, okay? It was not a Nazi rally. Now, the people who came there for Richard Black's thing, a few of them did show up with protective gear. You know why? Because of what happened in February. And what happened in February was by no means a clash. It was hundreds of terrorists picking off and attacking people by ones, twos, and threes, while the police stood back and let them do it, okay? I saw one instance when after a person was beaten down bloody, the cops picked up their unconscious body and dragged it into the building afterwards. Other than that, all the footage I've seen is just hundreds of Antifa people surrounding and attacking 1, 2, or 3 people, the police letting them do it. That's what happened in February. So if that happens in February, then this thing in March 4th, okay, of course some people, if they are wise, should show up with protection, seeing that the police are not going to do their job. The professional lawyer continues, it seemed at the time that Berkeley had again become what it hadn't been for more than 50 years, a battlefield for radicals. But the third event, and by the way, that reminds me, in the late 60s, the lawyer for Eric Clanton, the bike lock attacker, allegedly, the lawyer, Eric, what was his name? Dan Siegel, okay? He more or less single-handedly incited a riot that ended in the death of a person. A person was trying to drop bricks down on some cops or cinder blocks or something like that, which is attempted murder. And that person, I forget, I think they shot him. Not sure. But anyway, he got killed. Yeah, I think the police shot that guy and he got killed. And that is Dan Siegel's fault. That is the fault of the lawyer and a friend of the mayor of Berkeley on Facebook, by the way. Also friends with city council members and everything like that. The lawyer for the alleged bike lock attacker. He himself is a violent radical.
On May 15th, 1969, Siegel was at People's Park and he noticed there were police taking over the park. Fences were being put up to keep people out. So he went over to Sproul Plaza where there was a rally with a bunch of students. He took control of the microphone.
Let's go down to the People's Park.
There were highway patrol officers all around the park and people were putting a fence up.
Dan Siegel is an attorney and president of the Oakland School Board, but back in 1969, he was UC Berkeley's student body president. At his speech at Sproul Hall that day, he urged the 4,000 people there to take back the park.
People then started to drift down Telegraph Avenue towards People's Park. They ran into the police barricades set up at Telegraph and Haste. Some people threw some rocks or bottles. The police started throwing tear gas, and then the riot was on.
Not long after, police start firing buckshot and tear gas. One student is killed, and an estimated 128 people are admitted to local hospitals.
James Rector was shot and killed. Another man was blinded.
We thought the cops were totally outrageous, definitely deserved being called pigs.
In the end, 169 people were injured, including dozens of law enforcement officers. More than 1,000 arrested.
But here I was, right in the middle of this event, accused of inciting to riot.
Siegel stood trial on that charge and was acquitted.
Earlier in the year, he had been charged with inciting a riot, but had charges dismissed due to a lack of evidence. That little bit right there is cited to Long Beach Independent, December 1st, 1972.
A violent radical communist who has been a member of the Communist Workers' Party, who have renamed themselves. By the way, the Communist Workers' Party, they also got a couple of their members killed a couple of years later, because they they decided it was a good idea to march for communism in a KKK area. Now, of course, the KKK, they're bloody murderers because they did murder people and they're scum. Just for being KKK, they are scum. However, I'm just saying, these people are irresponsible. Dan Siegel has got people killed.
A man with a long barrel pistol. He leaned out of the window of the vehicle in front, and he fired it at about a 45-degree angle in the air. When I turned around, all of these people, as if a single signal had been given, lunged out of their cars in the vehicle. Like there were people laying every place. Caesar was, really charged them, took a lot of bullets.
Okay, that's the lawyer for this alleged bike lock attacker. The professional lawyer continues, but the third event, Patriots Day, a quote-unquote free speech rally planned for April 15th by a broad array of far-right groups, was poised to be the biggest battle yet. Now, you see the author has put quotes around free speech, as if it wasn't a free speech event. Does the author justify that in any way, shape, or form? No. Do they offer even some excuse for doubting it was a free speech event? Not yet so far. So again, these people, they just make stuff up. And they call themselves journalists. Okay? What's this guy's name? Alan? You're scum. Okay? You're a liar. Okay? Hundreds, or hopefully thousands, or, maybe if my channel picks up like it used to be, tens of thousands, or perhaps well over 100,000 people will see this, and they'll know you are lying scum. You are not a journalist. You are a professional liar. Protesters from both sides showed up early that day, slowly filling MLK Civic Center Park, a landmark green sward in the middle of the city. The police cut the park in half with a barrier of orange plastic mesh. The left-wing demonstrators made their way to one side, the right-wing to the other. That's actually not true either. The right-wing people were there. Here I am using the author's language. Some of them were not right-wing. Some of them were centrists. Some of them were left-wingers who just weren't radical, insane terrorists. And yes, some of them were Republicans. Some of them were Trump supporters. Some of them were not. By the way, I prove all of this in my videos, and I'm continuing to do so. I'm going minute by minute through the entire day and showing you from multiple different angles, multiple different live streams, what actually happened that day. So scroll down, see the links. So everything I'm saying, I've already proven. So what actually happened is the people came to the rally, they were there on the stage area with a few exceptions, and then a little after 10 a.m., the Antifa people marched right past the police station, right over the outside barriers of the park, into the park, and then right over those dividing barriers that were supposed to keep the left and right wing, quote-unquote left and quote-unquote right wing, people apart, while the police watched. Okay, there were about maybe 10 or so police in groups of 3s and 4s in the park watching them do this. Okay, now here's another thing. When the people showed up for the rally, they had to go through police who would take away their flagpoles, selfie sticks, anything that could possibly be used as a weapon. So they were disarmed, which is, that's fine. But then when Antifa showed up, they were not disarmed at all. And they were carrying closet rods with flags on them, boxes of things, who knows what they had in their pockets. The police let them do it. And the police did nothing about it for about 4 minutes, as I have proven in multiple videos. As the professional lawyer continues, kept at bay by riot cops, and see, already, he's lying. They crossed right over the barriers and the cops let them do it. Okay? You're lying. So if this author is really being negligent instead of intentionally lying, well, that negligence is malicious. Okay? So this is malice. So the lawyer continues, a throng of Berkeley liberals carrying signs of banners squared off with a band of their MAGA hate. Okay, These quote-unquote liberals, as its author says, this throng of Berkeley liberals, these are the people who spray paint liberals get the bullet too. They hate what they think are liberals. Why? Because the people that are normally called liberals, and actually neo-progressives, are nowhere near as radical as these people, okay? They want these people, they want quote-unquote liberals to be as radical as they, to help them in their revolution, and since liberals won't support their anti-liberal agenda, their anti-free speech agenda, their anti-civil rights agenda, their anti-individual liberty agenda, they hate liberals, okay? Quote-unquote liberals. They hate them. So again, quote-unquote journalist, you suck at what you do. How could you possibly get paid to do something that you are so bad at? Actually, no, you're getting paid for something that apparently you're good at, which is lying. But then again, your lies are just so transparent, so you're really not good at what you do, whether you're trying to lie or not. It's just, you suck, okay? So the professional lie continues. Early in the fray, a group of Antifa combatants clad in ninja black had ducked into no man's land and pepper-sprayed an alt-right partisan in Roman-era gladiator helmets. So that would be Base Spartan, some people call him Base Trojan. I think his first name is Leslie, I forget right off the top of my head. That set off a series of aggressive scrapes between anti-fascists, who actually are not anti-fascists, and some members of the Rise Above movement, a group of white supremacists who had showed up wearing skull masks. I have to say something about this, and you can scroll down and see the videos where I go into greater detail. Again, everything I say, I've already proven in videos, okay? These Rise Above movement people, that yes, they did show up. I think it was sometime after 10 a.m., before 11 a.m. They did show up. One of them did have a cryptic sign that nobody, I mean, I've asked a lot of people who were there, nobody really seems to understand what the sign means. They just sort of scratched their head over it, okay? Otherwise, these people had no indications, no signs of being with the Rise Above movement, although they are, I've done my research. They had no white supremacist symbols, no white nationalist symbols, yada, 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 yada. So, here's the deal. As far as everybody there knew, unless they actually really knew these people by their faces, as far as everybody there knew, these were just people. Just people. They didn't show up with, you know, Nazi anything, no white supremacist symbols. They're just guys. Okay? So there you go. So nobody on the rally's side would have known who these people are. Now, some of the Antifa people did recognize Nathan D'Amigo, who arrived with them. He's from Identity Europa. Some of the people on the Antifa side recognize him by his face. And again, I've talked to these people. I've talked to them a lot. They don't know who he was. For the next few hours, as marchers waved signs, the militants in the crowd scuffled at the edges in probing skirmishes. At 3 p.m., there was an explosion deep in the right-wing territory. Okay, now, I have to stop here. The first explosion was hours before that. I forget exactly what time, but I've already shown in my videos. Okay? The first explosion was thrown from the Antifa side onto the other side. That much is true.
Like a stun grenade. A stun grenade was just thrown. Holy shit. It looks like that, from what I just saw and experienced, it looks like one of the Antifa protesters threw a stun grenade or a firework or an M80. Now there's fights. Now there's fights breaking off.
Okay, again, folks, everything I'm saying has already been proven in my videos before. You could scroll down, you could see the links for the following. But this is actually what happened before noon, so well before 3 p.m. Okay, you had Antifa on one side, you had the rally people on the other side. Now, on the Antifa side, you had Joey Gibson, Tiny, John Beaver, and some other guy whose name I forget, unfortunately, who were with the rally, but they were on the back end of the Antifa side, just sort of walking around. Somebody grabbed the one guy whose name I forget. They grabbed his Trump hat and they ran with it, so he ran after that person. Then scuffles break out, pepper spray, punches, bloody noses. Now, around that time, as that fight was breaking out, one of the Antifa people threw an explosive towards the rally side. Yes, it did land on the rally side, pretty deep into it. It exploded, okay? Then everybody on the rally side just sort of stood there in shock, held their ears and didn't know what to do. Then somebody on the rally side yelled, "Yo, look," something like that, and they pointed towards the scuffle that was deep on the Antifa side. So then he and a bunch of people, including the Rise Above people, not that anybody knew who they were, jumped over the barriers and charged to help those people, and then a big scuffle broke out. Then the cops came in and sort of broke it up.
Just breathing, but that was nasty. Fuck.
So that's what actually happened. Let's see what the author says. Again, this professional liar continues, but at 3 p.m. there was an explosion deep into the right-wing territory. So, I mean, there probably was one around 3 p.m. because there were lots of explosives being thrown by Antifa that day. But, 3 p.m. would have been well after many explosives were already thrown. But anyway, he continues, some would later say it was an M80, Antifa M80, sorry, and the skirmishes erupted into a brawl. The men from the Rise Above movement charge across the Antifa front line. Okay, so I think this guy's talking about the fight that broke out well before noon because he's describing it. People were body slammed, punched in the face, kicked in the gut, tear gas filled the air, and the park became a swirling sea of fists, sticks, and pipes. I don't think anybody was using pipes, though. But anyway, yes, tear gas did fill the air. Okay, I'm gonna skip over some of this because I've already shown this author he doesn't know what he's talking about or he's intentionally lying. Look, this is his job. It's his job to figure these things out, okay? My job is not to figure these things out, but I do 10 times better than this guy in my own free time when I'm not at work or recovering from working. In my own free time, I figure these things out so much better than these quote-unquote journalists. The fact that they don't even care what's true doesn't help either, They're just like, okay, well, it seems like I know what I'm talking about. But no, it's so easy to determine that you're not. Anybody just watches either my video or the live stream by Tim Pool, We Are Change, a number of other live streams that day, they could see right away that this guy, this author, this professional liar doesn't tell the truth. But yeah, I mean, I'm realizing, folks, that this is just... We've barely scratched the surface of this article. We're only about 5% in. So, excuse me while I kind of skip around here. Actually, folks, I'm wrong. The very next paragraph is important. So the professional liar writes here, amid the chaos was a brief but brutal scene of violence. Out on the street, a young anti-fascist dressed in a hoodie, his face obscured by a bandana, swung what seemed to be a large metal bike lock squarely into the skull of an unwitting alt-right demonstrator. Okay, again, why is this author saying that the person who got hit is alt-right? Well, he was at an alt-right demonstration. No, he wasn't. Okay, so again, you're just lying scum. Okay? You're just, every time you breathe, you're wasting the air. You're a professional liar. And you shouldn't be a professional anything. You're a very irresponsible member of society, okay? You are not a social justice warrior. What you are doing is antisocial and unjust. You are lying to cause trouble and injustice. So the professional liar continues. The victim was a 20-year-old college student, Sean Stiles, who had made the trip to Berkeley from his home in Santa Cruz. Though Stiles had been consorting with the men from Rise Above, the bike lock attack was unprovoked. So, okay, wait a minute. Okay, you fucking scumbag. This author is suggesting that perhaps it is okay to hit them because he was talking with the Rise Above guys. Okay? Lots of people were talking with them. Some of them were Antifa. Okay? Very few people there know what Rise Above is, that they were Rise Above, or whatever. The professional liar continues, Stiles had been arguing with two young leftist women about illegal immigration. When he was hit, he simply put his hands on his head and started gushing blood, and stumbled off as his assailants disappeared. Here, I'll show you.
What are you gonna do, bitch? What are you gonna do? Hey, back the fuck up, bro. I'll treat you like a man. Personal property. That's what you want, right? You go right? You go.
I'm filming you.
Oh, I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you.
You have a mask on. Oh, shit.
Hey. Oh, motherfucker. Oh, shit, he's bleeding. Yo. Hey, medic. He's bleeding. Hard. Yo, he's bleeding bad! He's bleeding bad! He's bleeding bad!
Okay, now in defense of this author does claim here, reached by Rolling Stone, Stiles had no comment on the attack. Well, I wonder if that's true, and if it is true, I wonder why he might not want to comment to you. Is it because you people lie? According to Berkeley police, Stiles was one of 11 people injured at the rally. There had also been 20 arrests, but the man with the lock was not among them. So the article goes on to talk about how people were able to figure out who he is, and that's good. You know, if the police aren't going to do their job, then the people have to do it for them, and then basically hand over. I mean, it's almost like these people went and caught the person, tied him up, and left him at the police station. Okay. And this is what it took. Folks, you're going to have to scroll down and see the videos below. And basically, okay, it goes like this. The mayor and city council members of Berkeley do, in fact, act intentionally in favor of Antifa, Marxists, communists in Berkeley. This has been proven inside and out, upside and down. It sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. I have trouble believing it myself, but we've proven it. So the article continues about how they found him and blah, blah, blah. There's probably a lot of lies in there, but I can't read it all. So the article continues talking about how they found him and raided his house on May 24th, and amongst the stuff they found was a knife, some other weaponry, and a Tupperware of psilocybin mushrooms. Now this is, that could potentially, you know, unless he gets off on that somehow on a technicality, but if they find him, guilty of possession of psilocybin mushrooms, a Tupperware of psilocybin mushrooms. Who knows how much that is? An ounce, 2 ounces, 5 ounces? I don't know. But that's going to get him in a lot of trouble. That's Schedule 1 right there. In other words, it's very illegal. Here, let's see. Now, according to the Vaults of Arrowwood, which is a trustworthy site, this is erowid.org, a trustworthy site. Psilocybin mushrooms, the legal status in the USA, it's a Schedule 1 chemical, you can see. But the first two that I named are Schedule 1 in the United States. That means it's very illegal. I mean, for some reason, it's more illegal than crack or cocaine or something like that. So my point here is this. If Eric Clanton is going to get in trouble for having a Tupperware of magic mushrooms, that could potentially be a lot of time. The professional liar writes, when I flew to California to speak with Clanton 3 months after his arrest, he told me that he had granted the interview only because he'd already been outed by the criminal justice system. Oh, poor guy. Somebody found out that he tried to kill somebody, allegedly. The professional liar continued, in his blue jeans and preppy sweater, he was pensive, full of halting pauses, and obviously frightened by the possible 11-year sentence he was facing. Oh, yeah. Clanton is scheduled to be in court next month for a hearing that could decide whether he pleads guilty to a lesser charge or goes to trial. He goes more into the history, which I'm not going to do because this article is very long. Again, skipping past some paragraphs. Let's see here. People come to Antifa through different channels. Clanton's channel was academics, raised in a stable family in Bakersfield, one of California's most conservative cities. He studied at Bakersfield Christian, an evangelical high school. Ugh. He says he felt like an oddball there and struggled to find a voice for his out-of-step beliefs, which he described as, quote, embryonic anti-state communism, unquote. Now, I can understand if you're going to an evangelical high school just wanting to rebel against everybody there, okay? But if you're bullied and then you go out and act like a bully, you are worse than a bully, okay? Again, this person, this bike lock attacker, needs to be locked away from society, solitary confinement, until he dies from depression. And the author continues and blah, blah, blah. Quote, I felt like my politics had a home, unquote, Clanton says. Quote, I wasn't alone in what I thought about the world, unquote. Yeah, you're conforming, which means that you're an inferior individual, okay? Superior individuals are individuals, not members of a collectivist mindset. Okay, more trigger words here. Trayvon Martin. Okay, Trayvon Martin. Oh, I'm angry now, so, Nazis, fuck them, kill them. Michael Brown, Ferguson, Missouri. Eric Garner. As a professional lawyer writes in this paragraph, marching against the police directed Clanton's energies against white supremacy and what he described as, quote, the structural violence of the state, unquote, and set him on a path towards Antifa. The protests also proved that with sufficient motivation, radicals could oppose even the most entrenched forms of authority. Quote, before I saw those things happen, unquote, Clanton says, quote, I had this very docile academic sense of what I believed to be wrong with the world and no real sense of power to do something about it, unquote. Okay, so there you go. We have a sense of powerlessness, coupled with the sense of being ostracized or bullied or just not liking anybody around you in the school that you're going to. And when people feel powerless like that, then they struggle for power. And by the way, anybody who wants power to violate other people's rights should be their power should be taken from them. They should be stripped of power. Okay? People who want power over other people should never be allowed to have that power. And that's why we have things like jail, okay? That's why this person should be locked away from society, to prevent this powerless person from gaining power and then using it to hurt other people. The liar continues, but after, he adds, he realized that he had been part of, quote, a force of people that were going to hold the street and that weren't going to back down easily. It was, I think, the first time that I believed that people had a power sufficient to challenge the state, unquote. So here he is, I'm going to fight the government, I'm going to fight the state by hitting just some guy over the head with a heavy metal object, okay? You are fucking scum, okay? I would love 5 minutes in a room with this guy, okay? No doors, no windows, no recording, just get me in a room with this guy. What I would do to this mother scumbag if I was just allowed to do so. The professional line continues. In the wake of his arrest, Clanton took a break. Burned out on politics, he returned to his studies, working on a master's thesis about the roots of human ethics. Okay, so he tried to kill multiple people, and I'll just go back to writing. Okay, that is a psychopath right there. That is a sociopath, a psychopath. Fuck this scum. In what he called a, quote, mutual education, unquote, he also took a job as a volunteer instructor in San Quentin Prison, teaching Emma Goldman and Angela Davis to the inmates. Alright, we're going to scroll past some of these things. They mention Identity Europa, neo-Nazis, etc., KKK. Okay, they're talking about the campaign trail and all the violence that happened on the campaign trail. Yes, there were tons of violence, a little bit from one side, a lot of it from the other side. Here's something interesting. The professional liar quotes a friend of Clanton. Quote, personally, I've wondered whether nonviolence was a better means, unquote, says one anti-fascist, a friend of Clanton's who gave her name as Lou. But Sacramento Lou explains, quote, cemented for me that these people are willing to use violent measures. They had no moral restraint in inflicting harm, whether through their ideology or their actions, and we need to do everything we can to stop them and silence them, unquote. She adds, quote, these are punchable people. These are people who should be punched, unquote. Clanton won't say whether he was in Sacramento that day, but he does admit that the violence there radicalized him further. Okay, well, I can tell you right now, he was there. I showed you in the video, he was there. He was not masked, he was clearly there that day. Okay? I also showed you he was there on March 4th in Berkeley, California, at that rally mentioned above, and that he was laughing as people threw eggs at Rob, based hobo. And his girlfriend was there too. By the way, folks, for the proof that he was there in Sacramento in 2016 and there in Berkeley on March 4th, 2017, scroll down, see the link to the video below called Antifa's Bike Lock Attacker is Worse Than You Think. And by the way, I'd like to give a shout out to Rob Cantrell, the person who's being egged in that video on March 4th, who Eric Clanton is laughing at. What a nice guy. And yes, of course, he was there on April 15th, and yeah, it pretty much, I would bet, my right arm that, yeah, he is the bike lock attacker. But anyway, okay, again, this is very long. There's a picture from January. Remember, that was Washington, D.C., Trump's inauguration, Trump, Nazi, KKK. alt-right, Steve Bannon, blah, blah, blah. Alright, let's skip ahead. More and more stuff. Charlottesville, of course I gotta throw Charlottesville in there. It's all to subvert your thinking. That's why these words and terms are thrown in there. And by the way, okay, the name that I couldn't think of earlier right there, Kathy Zhu, that was the one that organized the Trump side of that rally on March 4th, which then merged with the free speech rally with Richard Black. The author goes into Kyle Chapman, Gavin McInnes, lots of stuff. On the advice of his lawyer, Clanton won't talk about Patriots Day, but it's clear that he considers the event and fighting there that led to his arrest as a kind of last straw. Oh really, it was a last straw. Okay, well things got too far, because not because you tried to murder people, but when you got arrested. I guess that was the last straw. That's when things go too far, huh? So the author of The Professional Liar continues, the Bay Area was the liberal bastion where he had found his place in the world after fleeing Bakersfield. Okay, again, it's not liberal. It's so far left-wing that they consider liberals, or call liberals, Nazis. Okay, some of those quote-unquote alt-right people at the quote-unquote alt-right rally were liberals, you moron. Okay, so the professional liar is writing the Bay Area where the liberal bastion where he found his place in the world in Bakersfield. For months he'd watched in outrage as the right showed up like insurgents in the Bay. Oh my god, you mean American citizens going from one place in America to another place in America? Build a wall. Continuing, ranting about feminists and illegal immigration not in coded dog whistles, but openly and proudly in public places. You mean people are openly against crime? Wow, you mean these people are they're actually saying these things out loud in America? They're gathering in public and saying that crime is not okay? Oh my goodness, you gotta hit these people over the head. What next? Quote, I found that personally fucking offensive, unquote, Clanton says. Good. You're offended? Good. Quote, because the Bay Area is my home. Actually, it's everyone's home who lives there. All the U.S. citizens who legally live there, it's their home too. And if you don't like the fact that in America we have freedom to go from one town to another, to stand in public and say what we want, if you don't like that about America, you have the fucking freedom to leave, asshole. Actually, you don't, because you're going to be in jail. Hey, bike lock attacker, allegedly Eric Clanton. I'm against rape of all kind, even in prison, but I'm not going to really lose sleep over what might happen to you in there, okay? Bay Area is your home. He continues, and it's hard not to take it personally when people come into your home and say these things, praising Pinochet, wanting to throw leftists out of helicopters. Oh my goodness. This guy is so deranged. People shouldn't have freedom to say things and go where they want. Have open borders, just not for Americans. Free speech, just not for Americans. No hate speech except for my own. No violence except for my own. Oh my goodness. His stupidity offends me, but, I'm not going to try to illegalize his stupidity just because it's offensive. Here's a picture of Sean right after he was hit over the head. Skipping ahead again. Oh, this is great. So they're talking about the hearing, which a few people have covered on video. Red Elephants, very fake news, and then Tabitha and myself, we did a little analysis of it, which was very funny because what happened at this hearing, or outside in the hallway, was hilarious. The professional writer writes, Clanton's lawyer Dan Siegel took questions from reporters, and among the scrum was a video crew from the alt-right outfit, theredelephants.com. Now, I think it's actually fair to call the Red Elephants alt-right. You have to talk to Vince, but, maybe not alt-right, but, certainly skirting the edge. He certainly has a collectivist, identitarian view, because he has told me himself that, black Americans all vote Democrat, and white Americans should solidify themselves, and blah, 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 blah. He's into identity politics, too, which doesn't matter to me if it's right-wing or left-wing. Identity politic people are inferior individuals, because they're not individuals. Anyway, the author of The Professional Liar writes here, theredelephants.com, quote, if your client goes to jail, will this be the first time that he moves out of his parents' house, unquote, which is so funny.
What we really want to know is that if your client goes to jail, will this be the first time he moves out of his parents' house? What is the name of his law firm?
A few moments later, the same man shouted, quote, "An ethics professor decided to attempt murder on people. What kind of ethics is that?" Unquote. And by the way, it wasn't Vince from Red Elephants. It was that other guy from Red Elephants who said that. But that is some funny ass stuff. That was it. And by the way, scroll down and see the video for that. It's really funny, that whole thing right there. I mean, this guy, this lawyer, this communist Workers' Party, this guy, this professional liar, this lawyer, he was such a bumbling idiot. He was like Peter Griffin. He's that fucking stupid. It was like watching Yosemite Sam against Bugs Bunny. It's just, he was such a bumbling moron. So the author goes on, lots and lots more inaccuracies. And if you're familiar with my videos and you read this article, you'll see that there's pretty much a lie in every paragraph at least. Scrolling down. So the author writes here, "We had spent much time of the weekend going back and forth about using nonviolence to confront the right. Clanton had been adamant. Showing up unarmed and unprepared to protest people who are willing to hurt others was simply too risky." Now this is funny, okay? Because this is what happens in reality, okay? In, again, June 2016, some actual neo-Nazis were actually going to practice their constitutional right to peacefully assemble and practice free speech. That is their right. Doesn't matter how evil those guys are. That's how the Constitution works, okay? Antifa and BAMN showed up and attacked them, okay? There was no standoff. They attacked these guys as soon as they entered the park. Hundreds and hundreds of Antifa people were already charging at them with weapons. That's what actually happened. In February, it wasn't anything like that. February 2017, the Milo Yiannopoulos thing at UC Berkeley, it was a few people showing up to hear Milo Yiannopoulos speak, and as I said earlier, hundreds of people coming at them and attacking them in twos or threes. Just picking them off, pepper spraying them when they're giving interviews, for example, hitting them in the back of the head while they're not looking, for example, trying to set people on fire, for example, white Antifa people trying to set a black guy, Ryoga V, on fire, otherwise known as Base Spider-Man, trying to set him on fire, saying that he's a white supremacist, okay? A white person trying to kill a black person, saying that the black person's a white supremacist. That's the sort of insanity we are dealing with here, okay? March 4th then happened, okay? People who knew what happened in February, some of those people, like Kyle Chapman and other people, showed up with protective gear and, yes, weapons, okay? To protect some people who probably had no, and in fact had no idea what they were in for. They didn't know that Antifa was going to show up and attack them like that. Then on April 15th, a lot more people showed up with protection against Antifa. So it's, yes, it's the exact opposite of what this author and Eric Clanton's saying. The exact opposite. And that's what you encounter with these things. Very often, what people say about these things are the exact opposite of the truth. And don't take my word for it. I've already proven it. Go and see. Other people have proven it too, by the way. I don't just want to toot my own horn. Not just Tabitha, not just myself, but a lot of people. They've proven these things inside and out. Keith, Patriot Warrior Media, Simi Singh, Very Fake News, Tim Pool, Luke Rukowski, We Are Change, etc. It's been proven inside and out. This is the exact opposite of the truth. Let's continue here. The professional lawyer writes, while peaceful demonstration might serve to dispel Antifa's critics, Clanton says he isn't interested in giving up his safety or that of his friends to seize the moral high ground, which he dismisses as a notion created by, quote, the narrative class, unquote, of which he is a member, by the way. He's a professor, okay? He's the one that sets the narrative. He is a college professor, okay? But he is the narrative class. Continuing with the article, nor does he put much stock in the right's high-minded assertion that it's fighting for free speech. Quote, was Yiannopoulos coming to Berkeley defensible in terms of free speech? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. And if you don't like it, we have given you the freedom to leave. It is an open question, he says. Quote, but what is not defensible is outing undocumented students in a way that, if not directly advocating, suggests or sort of incites violence against them, unquote. What a hypocrite and a liar. Okay, so that day on February 1st, for example, I mean, this is common, this is what happens. One of the members of BAMN stood there and said, don't hold back tonight. A member of by any means necessary. In other words, violence. Okay, these people incite violence against people who they claim they claim are using their free speech to cause violence, but when they make those claims, they are lying. Okay? We can all see on videotape that these people are guilty of what they accuse other people of being. Okay? They use speech to incite violence. They engage in attacking members of marginalized groups. They attack and call it defense. They engage in hateful speech and accuse others of quote-unquote hate speech. They are the exact opposite of what they are claimed to be. Lou is more direct. Quote, free speech is being used to cover for a very violent message. What they're trying to protect is hate speech and calls for genocide. Unquote. Again, a total lie. Alright, so then they go on to mention Donald Trump, and quoting from this Lou person, says here, as the Twitter reports keep rolling in, tear gas has now been fired. I asked Clanton if he thinks there is any meaningful distinction between a white supremacist like Richard Spencer and a Trump supporter who wants to build the wall. After one of his academic pauses, he acknowledges the two are not the same. The real difference, he suggests, is, quote, who is wielding bats and sticks and shields and knives and who is not, unquote. Wow. Dude, how could you say something so stupid? I'll tell you who's wielding the bats and sticks and shields and knives. Antifa. You. And when other people wield, weapons too, it's because they're defending themselves against your attacks, you fucking lying scumbag terrorists. But does he apply those parameters to the unarmed right-wing marcher who was set upon just 30 minutes earlier in Berkeley and kicked by Antifa protesters as he lay on the ground? Clanton's moral certainty, his deep conviction that the fascist threat is real and needs to be snuffed out even at the cost of his liberty or scruples, makes me think of a letter he wrote to his loved ones while he was being hunted by the cops last year, addressed to, quote, the broken hearts, unquote. It seems to make reference to Patriots Day, but was apparently never sent. Quote, it will be a very long time before anyone who isn't a part of this fight will come to any understanding of the fucked up events of that day, unquote. No, not really, because, I pretty much worked out everything up until about noon, exactly what happened, when and where. So, no, you're wrong. And I've already done that for June 2016, and I'm gonna do it to other days, so no, you're wrong. Look, people filmed it, you idiot. People filmed it. People live streamed the entire thing, okay? This helicopter video as well. You're wrong, and you're stupid. My goodness, this guy's part of the narrative class, and he's as stupid as a tree stump. Wow. Quote, the world is much stranger and more complicated than you seem to realize. I've tried to have open conversations about my politics, but mostly I've sheltered you from them. Oh, my protector, my white knight, you've sheltered me from reality. He continues, another mistake. Well, those days are over, and now it's time to do the hard work of finding actual common ground if we want to have a relationship. It's time to have hard conversations about where you stand in this messy world and which side you're on. Unquote. What a monumentally hypocritical, detestable, vile, putrid, intentionally ignorant scumbag. Fuck you, Eric Clanton. Fuck you, Dan Siegel. Fuck you, Antifa. Fuck you, Rolling Stone. And fuck you, Alan Feuer. Now, if you had any sense, Alan Feuer, after this, you should just crawl away in shame. Go hide in your mother's basement and fear to show your face in public again because you should be that embarrassed. Fuck you, you scumbag liar. Well, what do you think, folks? Everybody, scroll down, see the links below, leave me a comment. Actually, leave comments for Alan Feuer. What do you think of Alan Feuer in this piece? Alright, everyone, thanks for watching. Peace, love, freedom, and equality. Goodbye.